rather more than I had expected.
A wonderful tour de force.
An exciting research project.
Collectors actually love them when they're all decomposing and almost falling to bits.
Oh, I do wish my husband was here to hear that.
Thomas Walpole, Hull, November 1760. 1760, the year that George III came to the throne, and it's absolutely off the period. So nice. Lovely big bowl, lovely opaque twist stem, beautiful foot. It's in such nice condition as well. Beautiful contemporary engraving. Do you know how much your father paid for it?
Not very much, being a Yorkshireman.
It's a shame he didn't come from Hull, though.
He's had it, I would think, well over 40 years, and it was his favourite piece.
Right.
And my favourite piece now.
Well, I think one of the things that's going to add to its value is if we can find out who Thomas Walpole of Hull is. I do suggest that you perhaps contact the main churches in Hull, the parish records in Hull, because somewhere a man who was able to afford a glass like this would almost certainly be recorded in one of the parish records. So it would be well worth checking it out. In the absence of knowing whether Thomas Walpole was a grand man or not, it's still going to be worth, for insurance, about £800.
Oh, splendid.
So well worth checking out.
Indeed. An
Great.
exciting research project.
Absolutely.
These four here, I haven't got a clue where those are dug up. These two were from a lake in Shropshire.
Lake in Shropshire. So, did you know who found them?
They were my dad's, so he's a bottle digger. Well, he was a bottle digger.
The curious thing about bottles, it's one of the odd anomalies in antiques that for these, the worse condition they're in, the more valuable. Collectors actually love them when they're all decomposing and almost falling to bits, rather than the glasses that look clean, because I suppose when they are this age, it's nice to think that they have survived. The purpose of these bottles were to serve wine rather than to store wine. They were used mostly in public houses and in grand houses to fill the wine from the cask, and then you would serve a bottle at table. They really were a great English invention. In the 17th century, they started to make this very dark bottle glass, and that was really very much heavier, stronger than other countries had made, and it became a new thing. They replaced the pottery bottles previously used, and everybody wanted their wine served in glass bottles. And we've got a bottle here, the shape, the tall, thin neck, and rather squat onion bottle, known as a globe and shaft, is about the earliest type, and this dates back to the middle of the 17th century. We're looking about 1660. And gradually the shape changed to a little bit more squat. We find that this shape, which dates from about 1675, 1680, and here you've got the seals on the front. Normally these seals were the signs of the inns and taverns where they were used. Here you've got what looks like a lion, so I guess it was perhaps used in a public house called the Red Lion or Golden Lion or something like that. Gradually the onion shape developed. This is the classic onion, obviously named, and these came in at the beginning of the 18th century. They have a lovely high kick-in base, which allows more area for the wine to come into contact with the glass, and it cools it. You place these into a bucket of ice or cold water to cool the wine, and the shape is now becoming more practical for that purpose. And then gradually they became a little bit taller, and these would date from 1730, 1740, possibly up to the 1750, getting more and more taller, gradually coming into the wine bottle shapes we know today. The value in these depends on precisely how early. The earlier they are, the more valuable. And the presence of a seal like this adds to the value enormously. I mean, this type are very surprisingly expensive, but the problem with this one is he found the neck and the base separately.
Yes, he said he found it in two pieces, and he put it, you know.
He's done it nicely. One's seen that the base is deteriorated separately to the top, and you've got the iridescent decomposing there in a different way. So had it been a perfect bottle to find, then you'd be looking at about £1,500, even 2,000. Broken is still worth 300 or 400. This one, being sealed from this period, even with damage, you're looking at £500. And these are found in much larger numbers. A nice onion bottle like this will cost you about £100 today. And I think they're great bottles to hold. And going down to about £60 for later ones. So if you can go back to the lake where he got these, wonders how many more down there. Find a few more of these in good condition. They'll be £1,000 each. Well worth going for a dive.
Lovely, thank you.
What's your house like without the door?
It's a little bit bare. We have a temporary panelling.
What do you know about it?
Well, it was actually designed and made by Vincent Micheli for his house that was built in 1929, and he worked in stained glass.
Yes.
My grandmother became his companion housekeeper. When they died, my aunt inherited the house, and then in turn I inherited the house.
I mean, what this takes us into is a particular period of English domestic architectural design, the spread of the suburbs along the arterial roads, all those bungalows and semis, all the same but all subtly different. And one of the ways builders made them different was by the installation of stained glass panels, either in the doors or very often in the primary room windows. You see them still there. Of course, so many have been stripped out by double glazing, by plastic frames. Hundreds and millions of doors have been replaced, of course, by dreadful fake Georgian replicas. So it's wonderful to see one that is actually total as it should be. Maritime motifs are the most popular. That's what people go for. You get all sorts of things, but the idea of often it's a sort of a great galleon in full sail, but this is much nicer because it's almost a contemporary image. All the other things are nice. The number 40 is very nice. I think this is a later replacement.
It is, yes.
It probably was an iron one originally to match that, but essentially it's as it should be, and of course it still belongs on the house, which is even better. Can you value a front door? Of course you can. Places called architectural salvage centres sell things like this all the time. What usually happens though is the panel is taken out, the door is scrapped, and it is sold as a stained glass panel, which is a great tragedy. But that panel is great. In the door, it has to be £400, which is quite a lot of money for a front door, but better than any replica or reproduction. So screw it back up and make sure it continues to live there. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was given to me by my grandmother. She knew that I liked it, and I had been fascinated by the way it captured light and threw light off for many years. Since I was very small, she'd said to me that one day it would be mine. Shortly before she died in 1990, she did pass it on to me.
It is, of course, thick glass, but they are incredibly fragile, obviously. And how did your grandmother come by it?
My grandfather went to many auctions when they were living at Buckingham, and
so you think he bought it at
I think
auction?
he bought it at auction.
Yeah.
He collected Venetian glass and furniture
Sure.
and bits and pieces of paintings.
Well, this one, of course, is not Venetian.
Yeah.
It is, in fact, as you probably know, Bohemian.
Yeah.
And it is purely a tour de force. It's based on a medieval shape of the lidded silver cup and cover. In fact, if we look at it in a little bit of detail, the glass itself is cut, blown first of all, and cut to the shape in two pieces. And then the yellow colour is added externally by a oxide being put into the kiln. And so the glass is clear all the way through, as opposed to English coloured glass, which is coloured right through. But they use it to a wonderful technique, this German Bohemian method. They actually, when they'd covered the glass with the yellow, this was hand cut on a wheel, just by literally holding it, inch by inch by inch.
It's fascinating how some of it is translucent and other is transparent.
That's
so
right.
I imagine it must be polished in
That's
places
right.
and not others.
That's right. But of course, what is really remarkable is if you actually rub your finger over the top of one of those stags,
Very tactile,
and just
yes.
see the depth
Yes.
of cutting. See how far they've had to cut into the glass to get it. And think of sort of areas like this, where they've got the honeycomb effect. That, of course, is where the glass has been coloured all yellow, and then it is cut off to a precision, so that the smallest piece of the colour remains to give that
That's right.
honeycomb
You
effect.
can even see the colour underneath the base there,
That's
right through.
That's right.
Right underneath
So,
it.
a remarkable piece. If it were claret glass or red glass, it would in fact be worth considerably more. That is more highly prized than the yellow glass. So there it is, made in Bohemia, hand cut by one man around about 1860 to 1870. And I suppose today at auction, you don't know what your grandfather paid for it?
No idea.
No idea. I would think that you would expect to pay at least £4,000 for it.
4,000. That's rather more than I had expected.
A wonderful
Goodness
tour
gosh,
de force.
My husband bought them in the early 60s because we liked them. We paid £50 for them, which we thought was rather a lot in those days.
£50?
Yes.
Right, yes. First of all, the condition is absolutely stunning. I mean, everything is as crisp as the day it was made. The glassing, it's just so sharp, everything is just as you would want it to be. Finding a pair of claret jugs is unusual. They turn up, but most often you simply find a claret jug.
Yeah.
We've got these wonderful fruiting vines spreading across the lid, and the vines intertwined. You see how they just cross over and over down into the base there. So often when you get something like this, it's been dulled with polishing and so on over the...
Well, I've only cleaned it 4 times since I've had
4
them.
times, right. Have you used them?
Not for wine, no.
No. What have you used them for then?
Well, we mostly had them in the cupboard where we could see in the glass case.
Oh, right, just to
Yes.
enjoy.
Yes.
Just to enjoy. Well, they're made in London, and we've got a date here of 1838, but the maker, and really could not be better. The maker in this case is Paul Storr.
Oh, fabulous. I have heard of him.
It's certainly a name to conjure
Yes.
with. One of the greatest of the silversmiths that has ever been. And it is an early date for claret jugs. They started to get going in the Regency period. You don't see many until you get a little later into the reign of Queen Victoria. So we've got absolutely top maker. We've got a pair. Really, we should be looking at a value of somewhere around 30,000 plus.
What? Wow. That's fabulous.
So a little improvement on the 55.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, I do wish my husband was here to hear that.